Secret friends, unite!
Hey gang, welcome back to Secret Friends Unite Prime, which we call Oops, All Thunderdome. This is where we take about 30 minutes and we kick around a topic, keeping things simple. And this week, Peter is back with me. So you got number one and number two, or number two and number one, however you want to look at us, back exclusively to tackle a project that I've wanted to do for a while, back when Todd and I were making the show, that I'll get into in a little while, but it has to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We started the show in 2014. It was the fall, and that was after The Winter Soldier came out. So this was several films into the MCU, and I'm like, you know what? If I want us to touch all of it, I want to go back and ramp up, kind of time permitting, those other films, and have it not be a super focus. Like there's something new and exciting coming out, which we've got several that we've done recently and several coming up. I want to cover that more and foremost. But this we're going to talk about. So we're going to be talking about the first film in that series, which I'll get into in a moment. But a couple of housekeeping items. As always, I'd like to give some love, kindness, and respect to the wonderful people in our Secret Friends Unite Patreon squad over at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. That's where you get all of our shows for early. For example, this show comes out weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, on a Thursday. Well, the Patreons get it on a Tuesday. So you get to enjoy us a little bit early with your morning drive or your evening drive or your visit to the gym or you're doing laundry. Whenever it is that you listen to us, you get a little early. We do exclusive shows over there, such as the Bad Movies podcast I do with my wife, April, which comes out every few months, called A Bad Trip to the Movies with Cardens. That's an exclusive. And the vast majority of the Facts of Geek Life, which is a show Peter and I do. Peter and I are currently doing, I've done it with other people, but currently we're talking about Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica. We're in the third season of that show. And we would love to have you there. And we've got an exclusive channel over on our Discord as well. Indeed. First week is free. So free is free. Half off your first month. Well, your subscription starts at $2 a month. So you could pay $1. And then you pay $2 going forward and getting all this wild entertainment. So we would hate for you to miss out. Pop on over to patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Give it a shot. And if you enjoy it, stick around. And if you don't, at least, what's Bart Simpson throwing that cake in the trash that says, at least you tried. Because we would love to have you on board. But secondly, we have our first sponsor of our show. We're brought to you in part by, and I've read this on several other programs so far, but the good folks at Argo's Bookstore in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is the comic shop that I've gone to since I was 10 years old, since the 80s, when comics were 75 cents. They've been around since 1975. My new friends Roger and Crystal took it over back in 2022. They really changed things around, changed focus of the shop, still sells used books, which is awesome, but the comic focus is great. They got a lot of new products that you don't want to miss out on. If you sign up for a poll where you're grabbing 5 or more monthly titles every month, you're part of the Argonauts Club, where you're saving 10% off. They also buy collections of used books and comics. Find them over on Google or Facebook or Instagram. Or, believe it or not, you can give them a call, 616-454-0111, and let them know that you heard about it right here on our show so that they know that you are listening. So, Roger and Crystal over at Argos here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. All right. Let's get into it. As I teased before, we're starting a series. It'll be kind of an infrequent series called the MCU in Reverse. Me wanting to kind of touch every part of it. And we're starting out with Iron Man 2008, which is a success story. You'll hear a little bit more about this in the second part of the interview that I did with Iron Man legend Bob Layton, who is a Marvel creator. In the first part of our interview, we talked about just his career at Marvel and some various things in comics. But in the second part, we're going to talk about his involvement with this film. So I don't want to spoil that.
I believe that dropped this Friday.
It did, yeah.
on
So that's
YouTube.
part one. Part two is yet to be tackled, but it'll be out in 2026. But let's blast through the summary, and then Peter, you can kind of tell me how this film first came to you, and then we'll go through some notes and all that kind of good stuff. So as I mentioned, it's a superhero film that came out in 2008, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. This was produced by the nascent Marvel Studios and distributed by Paramount Pictures, the fine people that give you Star Trek and Indiana Jones, etc., etc. The first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, directed by Jon Favreau, who also has a minor role in the film as Happy Hogan. From a screenplay by the writing teams Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby. You never end up hearing that name again. And Art Markham and Matt Holloway. Well, I don't know who any of those people are. The film stars Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man, alongside Terrence Howard, Jeff Bridges, Gwyneth Paltrow, Leslie Bibb, and Sean Taub. In the film, following his escape from the captivity of a terrorist group, world-famous industrialist and master engineer Stark builds a mechanized suit of armor and becomes a superhero, Iron Man. The film was released in the United States on May 2nd, the first film in what became Phase 1 of the MCU. It grossed over $585 million, becoming the 8th highest grossing film of 2008. Isn't that crazy that $585 million, I assume that's a global number, would be the 8th highest grossing film in a pre-COVID box office from, 20 years ago? That's crazy to me, where, a film achieving that number now is number one or number two. It's just it's a very different world. But anyway, the film received praise from critics, especially for Downey's performance, as well as Favreau's direction, visual effects, action sequence, and writing. The AFI, or the American Film Institute, selected it as one of the 10 best films of 2008, received two nominations at the 81st Annual Academy Awards for Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects. 2022, the Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the United States National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
It is very much culturally and historically significant at this point.
Goodness. Yeah, Launchwood is arguably the biggest franchise that will ever exist, which is something I noted in my notes. All right, one last bit for me, and then I'm gonna introduce the stakes. I'm gonna let Peter talk. As far as critically and how it was received, this holds out of 278 reviews a 94% on the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, and 91% on the popcorn meter, which audience score out of over 250,000 ratings. Wow. So this is an immensely popular film, beloved by nearly all the peoples of the world, as it would say. All right, so we're going to go through a couple of things. Our brackets are, because this is an older film, we're going to be talking spoilers. If by some measure you haven't seen this film, now's a great time to pause it. Go out and watch it. It's available on Disney Plus as of 2025, available for purchase in physical media at places like Amazon or Target. Probably Amazon's going to be your best bet, or video on demand at Fandango, Apple, or a lot of those other places. We're going to talk first, favorite moments, missed opportunities / weird plot holes / etc. And then we're going to give it a score 1 to 10. So, Peter, I've been talking this whole time. I'm going to take a big old chug of my water. I'm going to let you talk to me about your favorite moments.
All right. There's a lot of really fun moments in this film. It's one of the things that this film does really well is just Tony Stark's enjoyment of life and all the ridiculous things that he does. One of my favorite scenes is the test flight when he's testing out the Mark II.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, all right, we need to do calculations before we can fly. Sometimes you got to run before you can walk. And then it takes off, and then it becomes like this absolutely ridiculous, fly around, watch the kid knock his ice cream off of his cone, all the goofy things. That's an amazing scene.
Yeah.
It really leans into how much fun flying is. So it shows one of the reasons that Tony Stark really likes doing it is because he gets an adrenaline rush. It's fun. Right. And so they don't shy away from that. And I think that's great.
And he's experiencing, that's one thing I put in my notes, he's experiencing the wonder of doing it. So when you think about an origin story of Superman or Batman, or Spider-Man might be, if you look especially back to the Tobey Maguire films, it's he's experiencing, this sense of purpose and whatever it is, where Tony's just a dude who's flying around in a man-sized super jet, and nobody's really done that before. So he's just a guy who's stepping into this
an inventor
world,
reveling in his invention.
And he's not even to the point in this film where he figures out that instead of just making this thing, that he can do some good with it. And that kind of comes at a turn in the film when we get into the second act, when he is confronted again by Leslie Bibb's character, who says, well, I see that Stark Enterprises is up to its old tricks, and you're selling more guns to terrorists in the place where you were held in captivity over in the Middle East. And he figures out that, I got to go fix this. And so he does his first act of superheroics, which is a great sequence, I think, by the way, without a doubt. But, one thing I promised that I didn't prompt you about. So as far as your experience for the first time, I obviously saw this in the theaters. You were a teenager when this came out. I was older than that because it came out in 2008. So I saw it for the first time. I think I probably took my son with me. He would have been 8 or almost 8.
I was just turned 8 in high school, I think.
Yeah. Because, and it was the same thing. It was the exhilaration because we were coming off of basically a decade of very hit and miss superhero films that didn't really follow any organization, because while we did have the first film and then we had the second film the same summer of Nolan's Batman trilogy, and without a doubt The Dark Knight, which was the second film in that Nolan trilogy, is a film with no match to me.
A great film,
I think it's possibly the finest example what the genre has to offer as far as making a film that employs superhero elements, but also is just a great film on its own. But on the Marvel side, we had 2 Fantastic Four films, which I know very near and dear to you. They're very near and dear to me.
I quite like the first one particularly,
but pretty inconsistent. You had a 2003 film from Fox about Daredevil with Ben Affleck, which was dreadful. You had a sequel to that, Elektra, which was even worse. The X-Men films were going on at this time.
You had the Tobey Maguire films had wrapped up at this point.
Yeah, we had
3 came out the next year, maybe, but
no, you're right. 3 came out the year before this. Okay. So more to the point, Marvel had no connectivity outside of the trilogies of films. So there was nobody trying to bring all the beasts under one yoke, as it were. And a lot of that had to do with licensing rights. I mean, this was a character that Marvel itself still owned everything to, because again, and I made a note of it, I think the hugest triumph of this was you took a D-list actor. I wrote this in my score, and I'll give my score in a minute. But I thought this was just an incredible updating of a 60s character that was very inside baseball just to people who read comics, even though he had his own cartoon in the 60s, which I've never seen. He had a cartoon in the 90s, which again, very few people saw.
He appeared in the Spider-Man animated show.
And he was in that show as well. But you would really describe the character as kind of a D-level comics-only hero. And you had an actor who was brilliant, but had absolutely fallen from grace. He had been in jail more than once for issues with drugs and other violations of the law. And everything coalesced into taking this actor, showing us what he could really do, with a character that people were like, maybe they didn't know anything about it at all. And you made a film that set sail a franchise that will probably never be equaled in its earning capacity. Where if you look at the MCU after 35 films, whatever they're up to, however you want to feel about how they're doing now, has made more money than Davy Crockett. It's into the multi-billions as far as what those films have all brought in. So, but more on that later. So, all right. Quick interruption back to other things that you liked, please.
So I really liked that. I did like the his first superhero bit.
Right, when he has to build the Mark 1 to escape. I wrote about that too.
Mark 1, where he has to get out. Jensen is a great character. I love Jensen.
Adapted from the comics, because in the 60s, he was imprisoned in Vietnam because Vietnam War was going on. And then Yinsen was obviously Vietnamese and another prisoner who helped him do this. He had to build the magnet, that the whole heart shrapnel thing with the magnet, that is right from the comic. Superman, or I'd say Iron Man, was a character in early Marvel, but didn't get his own named title until about 1968. But he was also a member of the Avengers from 1964. So the character was around and would sometimes have solo adventures. There was a book called, not Tales, it was Tales of something or other. I'd have to look this up. He shared a book with Captain America, kind of like Batman and Superman have the world's finest. You had Iron Man and Captain America would go on adventures together, and it was called, I'm kicking myself, and somebody listen to this, please hit me. If Kurt's listening to this, Kurt, hit me up and let me know what I'm forgetting. I'm sure I could look it up. Yeah. But yeah, he got his own named book, and I believe his entire origin was reviewed or expanded upon in that 1968 first issue of The Invincible Iron Man, which is a solo title, which has run on in one form or another until present day, being, in comics, they cancel and here's a new number one. Here's a new number one. But that original
evolved multiple times since the MCU started, because now you have elements of the films that have been incorporated back into the comics.
Correct. Yeah. Made to further enhance the readability. And in Marvel and in all comics, they have what's kind of known as the time slide, because they've done it recently with Captain America, where there's and I've been following this recent version of Captain America. Now he wakes up post 9/11. There's another guy who's Captain America who was a soldier in Afghanistan, and then the two of them have to work together in the current plot line to take on Dr. Doom and Latveria. So that's obviously very heavy focus on the fact that Dr. Doom is becoming a big character in the films. But I digress. Conversation for another time. I did love how the main terrorist guy, who we're either getting him back or the other terrorist guy who had the big beard is going to be back in Vision Quest, the TV series.
Well, the guy with the
out.
Well,
the problem
is both of them probably died in this film.
Well, definitely the guy who I'm thinking about, who was also the captain of the Kelvin in Trek 2009,
got killed by Zane's dude.
But they don't show him get killed. They showed all his men get killed.
They don't show a body, so it's possible.
Yeah,
and because he's surrounded by the villagers, and the implication is that
it gets beat to death.
Him.
Yeah,
but
you're right. No body. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
We don't see a corpse, and when it comes to anything, it's like if you don't see the corpse, and even then,
especially in comics,
it doesn't matter.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and let's see here. I loved all the early tests of the Mark II.
Oh, those are so fun.
And Dummy the robot.
I remember growing up, we would laugh out loud, like the whole thing where he's like,
10% thrust,
10% flint, slams into the wall. It's like, you should be in the hospital, but it's still.
I know, but in the next scene, he's just typing in his computer. I'm fine. That's comic book stuff right there.
Oh yeah, it's just it doesn't lean into the fact that it's a comic book movie as much as some of the other films that may have happened before, like the Eric Bana Hulk film, for instance.
Oh boy, God, I forgot about that one.
Just visually, right?
Yeah.
So this doesn't lean into the fact that it's a comic book movie quite as much,
right?
But it does still have some comic book physics, which it's a comic book movie. That's fine.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, it's like and to the point, Captain America. Chris Evans, when we'll get to that film, his powers are such that what he really is the highest physical representation of what a human body can do. He is not the stuff you see him doing in the movies kind of goes way beyond that. Like when he jumps out of the building in Captain America 3 and manages to ride his shield down. The Cap couldn't do that. He'd be crushed. Doesn't matter if he landed on a shield or not, but it's a movie and they gotta squeeze it a little bit. He couldn't make a helicopter not take off by holding onto it. You know what I mean? So they pushed it a little bit. So, all right. So back, the Mark II test, and then going on to when he, like I was saying, Leslie Bibb, as the reporter, Christian Everhart says, well, I see Stark's up to it's whatever. So he goes back to the Middle East. And as you said, he finds the terrorists going to blow away a bunch of civilians, and he stops that. And then he's like, I'm good. I'm flying away. And a artillery shell knocks him out of the sky. I do love it how he does the hands up, and then he pulls his face up, and then the tank shoots at him again, and he goes, "Whoa!" I did notice that shell didn't detonate. Did you? I never noticed that before.
Shells don't always detonate, so sometimes
Right.
it's just a giant piece of metal that you're throwing at someone
Gotcha.
to just make them go boom and not the shell.
And then that's what he just fires what is then referred to in the next film as the ex-wife, the little missile that just makes the tank explode.
And then ended on YouTube. They just say tank missile, pew.
Yeah, exactly. And he does the cool guys walk away from explosions, which is of course a classic in all films, particularly of the early aughts. Yep. And then, he gets mixed up where he's got these two Air Force jets chasing him. Don't forget that his best buddy in this is an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. This is James Rhodey Rhodes, who is a mainstay in the comics.
Is he a colonel at this point, or is he still Major?
Lieutenant Colonel. Yeah, he's a colonel in the next one, though he is referred to as a colonel in one of the infographs. I'm like, no, he's got the oak leaf. He's still
if you're a lieutenant colonel, people still call you colonel, right?
Right. It's like commander and lieutenant commander in the Navy, or Star Trek. Commander Data, Commander LaForge, exactly. Yeah. But I did notice one of the airmen in the Air Force CIC is the dipshit who tried to blackmail Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight. It was that guy. Funny. It was the same. Yeah, that guy says, where Morgan Freeman gives him space. So you're trying to blackmail a guy who runs around and beats up criminals in the middle of the night. I wish you luck.
And your plan is to blackmail this person.
I wish you luck. Tony's line when Pepper catches him being taken out in the apparatus, getting the armor removed, and she walks down into his lab, which all the windows are shadowed, so she just steps through the window, the floor ceiling window, and he just looks at her and says, I wrote this down verbatim. Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
I laugh every time that scene. It's such a good line.
I'm absolutely embarrassed that our main villain is Obadiah Stane, who's played by the exceptional Jeff Bridges. Mm-hmm. We find out as time evolves that while he's supposed to be a mentor and the number 2 at Stark, he's really trying to have Tony killed so he can take over. But when Tony gets back after making the arc reactor that powers the armor, this little chest-sized thing that's keeping him alive, he's trying to get it recreated at Section 16, which has a giant arc reactor, and the guy running it, and it took me all the way to the character coming back in Spider-Man Far From Home, which was in 2019, that is Ralphie from A Christmas Story, who is Jon Favreau's Peter Billingsley, one of Jon Favreau's absolutely best friends, because he's bald. And I just don't see Ralphie as bald. I don't know if Peter Billingsley is bald or if he shaved his head because that's what they wanted to do with the character. But I 100% didn't place. And then I'm sitting there in the theaters watching Far From Home, and I'm like, did they just kind of like deep fake stick him in there? No, it's him. It is 100% him, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it is.
But I kick myself because I'm usually pretty good. Anybody who watches any show with me, my wife in particular, I would say, oh, and that's the Star Trek guy, and his name is blah, 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 and he was in this episode every single friggin' time. Anybody who knows me knows that I do that, and you can't stop me. So I'm a little chagrined that I didn't pick up on that. So, that's about all of it for me. Oh, I did love the opening sequence. This is still when we had the Marvel comic flip.
I do quite like the old comic flip. They still do that for some of the films that are like the
Well, no, they've taken it away from the animated stuff.
I think they kind of did it for Spider-Verse, at least the first one. I think
maybe so.
They let them do
probably because it's Sony.
Yeah, because it's not the
pure
MCU.
Sony. That's pure MCU, Sony, where the stuff with Tom Holland is joined. I did enjoy. Basically, the cold open of the movie before we really figure is a framing sequence of him riding in a Humvee with these Air Force airmen, and and he's just. Like you said, he's talking like Tony Stark. Yeah, I went 12 for 12 with the models and this and that. And then he makes a MySpace reference, which made April and I just laugh because I don't know if MySpace passed you. Yeah, you might have been too young.
But I was old enough to do it. I just never did.
Yeah, it was. It was corny, and it's not funny now. Facebook, in a lot of ways, I think MySpace is still out there.
It's around, yeah.
So there's probably still people who still use it, and then of course we get our first, at least I would say maybe not the first, but definitely the most memorable after credit scene in a comic film, which gives us Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. Now, interesting fact, if you're not a comic reader, the character of Nicholas Fury came from the setting of World War II. Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. They were partners with Cap in those days, fighting the Nazis. Blah blah. Character was white. In the early 2000s Ultimates, which is, Peter, I recently gifted you a copy of Ultimate Spider-Man. In that same universe, the Avengers are called the Ultimates. Their liaison was a black Nick Fury, where S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of helped run or supervise the Avengers or the superhero team. It was, and that came out in 2002 or 2003. I remember reading it when it came out. I loved it. That's what this was. And that character's modeling was after Samuel L. Jackson. Then he took the role. That's in real life. Yeah. Which I think is a great role. So,
great job in that role through all of his appearances.
It's with the exception of
with the things that shall not be mentioned, but we
will not talk about that Disney Plus show that is which I have never watched again, and I don't know that I ever will. Even though I have it on the list for the Facts of Life for completeness, I don't know that we're ever going to get there. So missed opportunities, weird plot holes, etc. It's a reverse of a missed opportunity. Terrence Howard as Rhodey, when he looks at the Mark II armor after Tony flies off, he says, "Next time, baby." He gets replaced in the next film by Don Cheadle. I don't really feel bad about that. Don Cheadle has done great things with the role. I think, frankly, I like him. I like his performance better as an actor. There is a lot of mystery around why Terrence Howard didn't maintain the film. Like a lot of things in the acting world and the entertainment business, I think it had to do with money. There are some rumors that it had to do with perhaps he didn't get along with Robert Downey Jr. I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but I've heard different things.
Yeah, but I've heard that it's kind of some combination of those two things and maybe some third factor. But, it's real life. It's complicated. Who knows?
Right.
Somebody knows. I don't.
This is the beginning of a strange thing that comes back again in Endgame. Tony Stark is in this cave for 3 months. He should have like a big monster crazy man beard, and he just has a normal beard. And the same thing happens in Endgame. He's in the ship lost in space with Nebula for 3 weeks, and he just has some scruffle. So, but he has this iron like shaped goatee when he wants to. But I don't know. It's weird. Obadiah is, Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges. I feel like takes the leap from creepy industrialist all the way to like mass murder supervillain. I feel like it really leaps forward in a way that it's like, whoa. Because
a bit.
When he builds the suit, he's like, so we get him like, well, he set up the hit on Tony, which is bad, but then he, paralyzes Tony with the same little device that he got the captain of the Kelvin with. And then he says, well, I prefer not to have to kill Pepper. It's too bad you're involved. Now she's got to die. And then he gets in his big suit, which is like, which is called the Ironmonger in the comics. There's a famous image. You can look it up as the Invincible Iron Man number 200, where Iron Man fights the Ironmonger. And it's not terribly inaccurate to what you see in the film, but what you see in the film is a little too like 90s ridiculous with the missiles and the big, it's like, it's too much. Yeah. It's too much because, and the War Machine, which is what Rhodey's armor becomes in future films. Also in the 90s, I got a figure on my shelf back there. It's got the rocket, the big like missile launcher, the big guns and stuff. But this is like, it's like 3 times the size of Iron Man. It's too big. And he just gets like, oh, well, I'm fighting Iron Man. And, their sequence also, like their fight is like 7 minutes long. And it's like, you were building up the whole thing of this movie to just see these two guys slugging it out. But he's like, collateral damage. I'm going to pick up this car with a family in it and I'm going to throw it in the ocean. It's just like, he just kind of goes to, you thought, okay, he's a bad guy, but you didn't think he was like, Lex Luthor all of a sudden.
Yeah, he goes full Snidely Whiplash in the end. Why?
Exactly. It just kind of goes too far. I've never been a huge fan of Gwyneth Paltrow, and I think her character Pepper Potts I don't love either. But we get some bad like, Tony, I can't push the button, you'll die. It's like, can you believe she was in Shakespeare in Love and she's a serious actress? There were parts of her performance that this just didn't really impress me. So one last like mist I got from me. So he lost the arc reactor because Stane steals it, and he has to use like the junior, like he has to use like the My First Arc Reactor one that was in the glass thing. So after the big explosion, he like falls and he's laying there and it's crackling. Like, how did he live long enough to build another one so that he could keep himself alive? I don't know. Because they skipped right over that.
Didn't stop. It was just flickering. So I guess it stayed on long enough for him to
him to go back to the lab and be like, hold on, I got to 3D print this and whatever the hell it is. Yeah. So. What about you? Any weird anomalies or anything like that tweaked you in the wrong direction?
Any anomalies? For me, it's more just going forward is the whole thing where they can't figure out how to call Shield.
Yeah,
they keep
that got tiresome.
And so it's like when I was when it first came out and all of that leading up, I thought it was funny. I thought it worked. But now, especially when we have stuff that's like with when we have stuff dating back to when Endgame we go back to Vietnam and they're on a Shield base, or we go back to,
or the fact that Howard Stark co-founded Shield with Peggy Carter.
So it's like, and so there's just some stuff.
Why has Stark never heard of it?
Why has Stark never heard of it? Why they don't have the name figured out? Like it's a fun gag in the film, but it's like it's just anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I really like continuity and consistency, and so this just kind of annoys me a little bit. Mostly after the fact. Like when I first saw it, it was fine, but now it's just it feels a little weird. Other than that, like there aren't really all that many plot holes in the film. There's stuff that goes over the top a bit. But there's not really plot holes as much. I will say that I was a little bummed that Terrence Howard didn't continue only because of that continuity thing.
Right. I mean, swapping out, and again, that happens again with, and it's funny, the next film in the series is The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton starring as Bruce Banner. And that was a very much acrimonious break. He said, I want things my way. And they're like, you're out of here.
Yeah, that was
I like Mark Ruffalo very much, but I also did like, Ed Norton in that role. I thought he was great. Job. And it ended up working out the way it would. But all right, I do have some fun facts on this, but first I want to go with the rating. This was, and I know it's like this is a kind of a solid 10 out of 10 for me.
I think it's probably right around there for me.
You took a character that nobody, like I said before, that nobody knew anything about. You took an actor who was down on his luck. You squished them together, and you begun the biggest franchise I think that can ever exist, frankly. And I give them a pass around the clunky plot points, the Shield thing, which again, totally funny. Without any context, but obnoxious but it's also damn charming that it's like it's one of those, I can't stay mad at you, slugger. You know what I mean? For doing all the dumb stuff. What about you? You think, just about the same?
Yeah, probably. It's a fun film. Any plot holes are generally filled by the fact that it's like the story's tight and it follows things fairly quickly and it doesn't dither around. And it's
right,
and it really was the thing that got comic book movies to be like really entertaining. I mean, yes, there were some of the earlier films that were really really good, but just this just knocked it out of the park and got everyone going like, I want to see more superheroes, and we did.
It set the ship. All right, some trivia. This a film about Iron Man had been bandied about by Universal, Fox, and New Line Cinema at different times since 1990. Before Marvel, they got the rights back in 2005. Because again, Marvel, you may not know much about it, but they were in bankruptcy in the 90s.
Yeah, they were.
And that's why they sold, to stay alive, they sold off things like Spider-Man, which they've never gotten back. They have everything. And then the rights around the Hulk are somewhat middling between them and Universal, though that might have been finally resolved. Marvel put this into production, self-financing, and Paramount Pictures doing the distributing, and oh my God, did it pay off? Paramount handled the first 3 or 4 films. I know that you and I were going back and forth. They handled it
all the way up through Avengers, the first one.
Right. Yeah. Correct. A lot of it says during filming, the actors were allowed to ad lib because pre-production was really focused on the story and the action. So the dialogue was like, all right, we got some talented people. Let's just let them do it. We didn't even mention Paul Bettany, who is the voice of Jarvis, which that evolves more as the films go on and his role grows. But he signed on as a favor to Jon Favreau, didn't know what he was working on. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I did like this, and this was one I never would have gotten in a million years. The theme song from the 1966 Iron Man animated series can be heard throughout the film, in the casino, Stark's bedroom, and then Rhodey's ringtone on his phone when he's taking a call from Pepper. I had no idea.
I've never seen the show, so I didn't know. I mean, I noticed it too, and I was like, this is significant somehow. I don't know what this is, but yeah, that's funny.
And this is not the first, but it's the first film, first cameo by the late Stan Lee at 1 hour and 8 minutes. He appears at Tony Stark's party and playing the role of Hugh Hefner, accompanied by 3 blonde women. Lee later mentioned it was his most fun cameo. How could it not be?
Fair.
And then finally, we have a cameo, and that's funny. Here's a cameo that was a cameo in Star Trek Voyager as well. Tom Morello is rock guitarist from Rage Against the Machine. Helped compose the soundtrack, and he had a cameo as a security guard who gets killed by the Ironmonger. So he's one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, I guess. Because notice that Pepper is meeting with S.H.I.E.L.D. at their office in Yersim in downtown L.A. because she walks past in the parking structure the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo. And it's funny, the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo's on the wall, painted, but they still don't call it S.H.I.E.L.D. Even though when they jump back to 1995, retconning in Captain Marvel, which is in 2018,
it's called
both Nick Fury and Agent Coulson lived in LA at that time and called it S.H.I.E.L.D. But yeah, he plays one of those guards. So yeah, we don't see Tom Morello and stuff anymore, which is too bad. I don't even listen to their music, but I enjoy seeing him in things for that reason. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah. So this has been fun. I'm excited. So you're going to see us, and this will be kind of interspersed among some of our normal programming. I mean, the main focus of the show is we'd like to talk about new shows. We like to talk about new movies that are out that we're doing a review of, and comics and stuff like this. So this will be kind of like when you heard a few weeks ago, our contributor Kurt Krug was on with me talking about an arc of the Fantastic Four from the 1980s by John Byrne. This will be interspersed till we get through all the films. So yeah, I enjoyed doing this very much. So, and this is something that I've kind of wanted to do for a long time. So thanks for taking the voyage with me. Peter, if people want to find you out there, where do they track you down?
Well, you can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on most platforms. I don't say a whole lot, but you can poke at me and I might say something. But mostly you can find me on our Secret Friends Unite Discord.
Totally.
You can also find me over on ELH's Twitch and YouTube channel, where I play some role-playing games, and you can find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
Oh, yes. And you can track me down also on our Discord, but on kind of the big socials and YouTube, you can find me as at the C3 THECEETHREE. But also our Secret Friends Unite socials. You'll catch us on YouTube or TikTok. A couple of times a week, I will do kind of one of my Kitchen Island chats where I'm sitting down and talk about something I'm enjoying and kind of keeping up to date on new stuff that I find. So would love to have you there. And as they say in the YouTube world, please like and subscribe to all of those things so you get all of our stuff. But with that, I will bid you adieu. Friends, thank you as always for tuning in. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
See ya.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.
Hey, Secret Friends Nation, thanks for sticking around after the credits, or if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. I am joined by a friend of the show, super great guy who has been on with us many, many times before. This is actor and, dare I say, philanthropist, Mr. John Billingsley, who was the wonderful Dr. Phlox on Star Trek Enterprise, as well as a number of other things. John, it is always awesome to see you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I think you have to be able to write checks with more zeros than I'm comfortable writing to actually be a philanthropist. do-gooder. I'll take that. How about that?
Do-gooder. Oh boy, it sounds like it should be on the old Batman show. Oh, do-gooder fighting the Joker.
Yeah.
Well, John, I wanted to slide you in here because we got some crazy stuff going on in the country these days. We're just getting off a government shutdown where SNAP benefits were pinched. We're also getting into the holiday seasons where the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas in this case, where things can traditionally get tight for a lot of people. So I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about the great work that you do with the Hollywood Food Coalition out there in Greater Los Angeles and how people can help.
Terrific. Well, I'll tell you a bit about the Hollywood Food Coalition, and this will be bifurcated because I've always been a great believer that while I work for and represent a charity that I have great faith in and believe does wonderful things, it's just as important, maybe even more important, to think about if you have the impulse to give to us, but you think, maybe I should look closer to home. Fine, do that. I will say that hunger and need and want in this country is sadly only getting worse. 1 in 5 kids in America is food insecure. Some 40% of Americans, if they were hit with an unexpected $400 to $500 bill, their roof caves in, their car is repossessed, wouldn't have the money in the bank account to pay it. There are a limited number of soup kitchens and food rescue organizations in the country. We do something that is very dear to my heart at the Hollywood Food Coalition. We serve a hot meal to all comers 7 nights a week, no questions asked, always providing choice, always providing dignity of service. And we also offer an array of other services to people who come through our doors. We try and, in essence, sort of provide a kind of a soup to nuts experience. If you want your bicycle tire repair, we've got medical vans. If you want some housing assistance, if you want some kind of referrals to other social service agencies, we very much believe in coalition building through the medium of food. And additionally, we rescue somewhere around 2.5 to 3 million pounds of food a year to share with other not-for-profits, basically to augment and buttress their meal programs. So think about a battered women's shelter that does great work, but may not provide 3 squares a day. Right. We're trying to say, small not-for-profits doing great work, tell us what we can do to help make sure you're feeding the people who come to you for service as best you can. And additionally, every Sunday, we have a wonderful program that we have created with a lot of marvelous people in the community, families, church groups, and schools. We have dropped off at our premises, in essence, every Sunday, somewhere around 3,000 bag lunches. And we make sure those lunches get distributed through some of our community partners all over the city, primarily to people living in homeless encampments. Just a slice of what we do at the Hollywood Food Coalition.
That's fantastic. And so if people want to donate, if they're local and they want to get involved, or if you're not local like myself, I live on the other side of the country, how can they help? Where do they go? Where do they go online to provide assistance?
Easiest thing to do is to go to hofoco.org. Go to our website, and you can, if you live in Los Angeles and you'd be interested in getting involved, you can sign up to cook, you can sign up to serve, you can sign up to pull a shift in our warehouse space and help unload the food that arrives, sort it, cull it, store it, and get it out the door to some of the recipient organizations. And on Sunday, you can help our sandwich distribution program. And you can also donate there at our donation platform. But I also really want to encourage you to consider it, although I think, in a way, where you choose to give $1, it's not so much about the geography, because $1 you give in Portland or Seattle or Los Angeles is still helping people. Right. So if this is an organization, the mission appeals to you, you are helping some wonderful people in need. But if you feel you want to work locally, I would only say, look around and see what's in your neighborhood, what's in your city, what's in your community, an organization that is working on the ground with people in need. And that could be folks who are experiencing hunger. It could be folks who need legal assistance these days. That's obviously something that's pretty important. It could be teaching a kid to read. There's a lot of ways you can give back to your community. This happens to be mine. I'm very passionate about it. But in the holiday season, it's mostly about rolling up your sleeves.
Right. That's fantastic. And as I said, I promised a quick message. So this has been fantastic, Con. It's great to see you. Hofoco.org. That's HOFO. Oh, I just lost it.
You got it. HOFOCO, Hollywood Food Coalition. Hofoco. And it's
ho. Oh. All right, John, I will see you in the near future. Happy holidays to all, and thanks for spending this extra time listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
So much. Appreciate it.